Part 1. The impossible rescue Captain Aiden Cross had faced danger before. He had survived storms on Earth, crossed deserts with almost no food, and even evaded pirates in deep space. But nothing had prepared him for the moment he first laid eyes on Princess Lyra, or for the disaster that would force him to risk his life for someone not even his own species. It began with a routine mission. Aiden's ship, the Horizon, had been sent to the planet Virelia, a world famed for its beauty and technological marvels, to deliver supplies and establish diplomatic ties. Virelia was ruled by a proud and highly advanced civilization. Its people were taller than humans, with shimmering silver eyes and skin that reflected the light of their 3 suns. They called themselves Virelians, and though their science was centuries ahead of humans, their society was rigid and proud. Aiden had expected cold formality and perhaps some suspicion. He had not expected chaos. The message had been urgent. The royal palace, perched on a cliff above the planet's sparkling emerald oceans, was in danger. The planetary core, normally stable, had become unstable. Tremors shook cities and entire districts were collapsing into chasms of molten rock. The royal council had begun evacuation, but Princess Lyra, young, brave, and beloved, was trapped in the central palace. Aiden's first glimpse of her was through a shimmering force field designed to protect the royals. She was running through the collapsing corridors, her long silver hair whipping around her face. Her eyes were wide with fear, yet she moved with surprising grace, leaping over cracks that threatened to swallow her. And then the floor beneath her gave way. Time slowed. Without thinking, Aiden activated his jetpack, leaping into the falling princess's path. He felt the weight of her almost instantly and fought to stabilize her mid-air. The walls cracked, ceilings fell, and a massive beam came crashing down toward them. Aiden's body slammed into the ground, pain shooting through his ribs. But he held on to Lyra, shielding her with his own body as debris rained around them. When the dust settled, Aiden realized something incredible. Lyra was safe. He had broken several ribs, his arm was bruised, and his leg had a deep gash. But she was alive. The princess's silver eyes were locked onto his, fear still flickering but slowly giving way to gratitude. "You saved me," she whispered, her voice trembling yet steady. "You are human?" Aiden nodded, still gasping for air. "I'm Aiden Cross, and yes, I guess I am." Lyra's eyes widened again, not with fear this time, but with wonder. No human, so small, so fragile, had dared to face the dangers of Virelia's collapsing palace. Her people often spoke of bravery, but it was measured, calculated, and often ceremonial. Never raw, desperate courage like this. Then, "You are bound to me," she said, though she did not fully understand the weight of her words. On Virelia, saving a royal life was not just a noble act. It was a lifelong bond. The rescuer owed loyalty and service forever by law and tradition. Aiden groaned as he tried to move, but Lyra's tiny grip on his arm kept him steady. "I think we need to get out of here," he said, pointing to a tunnel that led toward the palace's outer gardens. The walls were still trembling, but it seemed passable for now. Together they crawled, limping over rubble and leaping across fissures that opened suddenly beneath their feet. Sparks from broken energy conduits sizzled dangerously close, but Aiden's human instinct for survival guided them. He ducked, rolled, and sometimes simply ran headfirst into danger, relying on his reflexes to protect them both. Finally, they emerged into the palace gardens. The sky above Virelia was filled with smoke and glowing red cracks as the planet trembled. Lakes of molten rock churned below the cliff. Aiden collapsed onto the ground, gasping, blood streaking his face and clothes. Lyra knelt beside him, placing a slender hand on his shoulder. You saved me," she repeated, this time with awe. "Our species, it is." "Incredible," Aiden coughed. "I'm not incredible, just stubborn." She laughed softly, a sound like silver bells, but it was cut short by a loud explosion in the distance. The remaining palace towers began to topple and alarms blared. "We need to move," Aiden shouted. Using what remained of his strength, he helped Lyra to her feet. The journey to safety was perilous. They had to navigate crumbling bridges, avoid energy surges, and even fend off automated defense drones that had malfunctioned during the quake. Each time Aiden instinctively placed himself between Lyra and danger. Even when a massive shard of metal fell directly toward her, he pushed her out of the way, taking the full impact himself. By the time they reached the edge of the palace cliff, Aiden's body was battered, bleeding, and trembling. Yet Lyra stood unharmed, her royal robes dusted with ash, her eyes shining. She turned to him, a look of deep respect forming on her delicate features. "You are human," she said quietly. "And yet you are more than any Virillian I know." Aiden forced a weak smile. "I just couldn't let you die." Before either of them could speak again, a rescue craft arrived, a Virillian shuttle piloted by elite royal guards. Lyra ran to the shuttle, but not without pausing to look back at Aiden. He was sprawled on the cliff, bloodied but alive. The guards moved to assist him, but he waved them off. "I'm okay," he insisted, though every breath was agony. "You go first." Lyra hesitated, then nodded. She touched his arm gently. "I will never forget this," she said. "Not ever." The shuttle lifted off, and Aiden remained on the cliff a moment longer, staring at the crumbling palace and the glowing molten rivers below. He had survived countless dangers in his life, but saving a princess from a collapsing palace against impossible odds was different. This was not a mission. This was life and death, and he had chosen to act without hesitation. Hours later, Aiden woke in a Virillian medical chamber. Advanced alien technology hummed around him, and his wounds were already beginning to heal far faster than he expected. A nurse-like alien hovered nearby, speaking in the musical language of Viralia. Though he could not understand every word, the tone was respectful, almost reverent. A door opened and Queen Seraphine entered, the mother of Princess Lyra, ruler of all Viralia. She was tall, regal, and commanding. Her silver eyes studied him, and for a long moment neither spoke. "You saved my daughter," she said finally, her voice calm but edged with authority. "You defied death for her. That is not common among your kind." Aiden winced at the formality of her tone but nodded. "I didn't think. I just acted." The queen's gaze sharpened. "On Viralia, those who save a royal are bound to them for life. By law, you owe her loyalty forever. And yet, I sense you are unlike others. You are brave, clever, and human." Aiden blinked. "Bound forever?" he asked. "You mean I can't leave?" The queen inclined her head. "Not without the consent of the royal family. And that consent is unlikely. You saved her life, and now by law and honor you belong to us." He swallowed hard. In his world, heroism was praised, but here it came with chains. Chains he had never imagined. Yet somewhere deep inside he felt no fear. He had acted for the princess because it was right. And even if this meant he would stay on Viralia, he knew humanity had given him strength and courage to survive. And perhaps to earn respect from a civilization far greater than his own. Princess Lyra entered the chamber then, her small frame moving quietly toward him. She placed her hand on his arm again. "You are more than a human," she whispered. "You are a protector." Aiden's chest ached, not from his wounds, but from the understanding that his life had changed forever. He had faced death and survived. But now he would face a new challenge, living in a world that did not see him as equal, yet could not ignore the bravery he had shown. As the queen watched, her silver eyes thoughtful and calculating, Aiden realized that this was only the beginning. The palace was safe for now. The princess was alive, and he, a human among gods, had defied death. But how long could courage alone protect him when the queen had claimed him forever? The answer, Aiden knew, would come soon. And when it did, humanity's strength would be tested in ways The Palace of Viralia was more than a building. It was a city in itself, carved from luminescent crystal and metal that reflected the three suns above. Bridges of light spanned vast chasms, and hovering platforms moved silently between towers. To a human, it was dazzling, alien, and terrifying all at once. Aiden Cross woke on a soft, glowing bed in the medical chamber. His body ached, but the alien technology had already healed most of his wounds. He flexed his hands, tested his arms, and winced as a few bruises reminded him of the effort it had taken to save Princess Lyra. A soft chime announced the entrance of an attendant. A tall, elegant Virillian with silver eyes bowed deeply. "You rest well," the being said in melodic tones. Aiden didn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear. "Thanks," he muttered, wincing as he shifted. He wasn't sure if the alien understood him, but the gesture was polite. Then the door opened wider. Queen Seraphine entered, her presence commanding, yet there was curiosity in her gaze. She moved with grace that made even the floating garden seem ordinary. "You have healed quickly," she said, her voice like a musical note that demanded attention. It is unusual. Even for humans. Aiden shrugged. Guess I recover fast. Always have. The Queen studied him, eyes narrowing slightly. You risked your life for my daughter. That is admirable, but it also binds you to her forever. On Virelia, those who save royalty owe them loyalty beyond words, beyond law. You understand this, human? Aiden hesitated. I think I understand. I saved her because it was right. I didn't think about obligations. The Queen's expression softened almost imperceptibly. Your kind is strange, yet there is value in that. Bravery without hesitation, that is, rare. Lyra appeared then, stepping lightly into the chamber. Her silver eyes reflected worry and relief. Aiden, she said softly, are you in pain? Some, he admitted, but nothing I can't handle. He forced a grin, hoping to ease her concern. Lyra's gaze lingered on him. You are different. My people speak of honor and courage, but they rarely live it. She stopped, unsure how to describe him in words her culture would understand. You are not just brave. You are human, and yet, you are more than many Virelians. Aiden swallowed. Compliments from aliens were rare even for someone who saved a princess. But the weight of the Queen's law hung over him like a shadow. He was bound, whether he wanted it or not. The Queen gestured to the attendants. Prepare him, she said. He will learn the ways of Virelia. He will be trained in our customs, our laws, and his duties. And he will stay under observation until we are certain he can serve the royal family with honor. Aiden blinked. Stay, observation? His heart sank. This was no longer about bravery. It was about becoming part of a culture that saw him as both hero and servant. Yes, the Queen said simply. You saved my daughter. You owe loyalty. And loyalty is tested. The next days were exhausting. Aiden moved through the palace under the watchful eyes of instructors, learning Virelian etiquette, history, and combat techniques. Everything was different from Earth. Meals were strange, flavored with compounds he could barely recognize, yet nourishing in ways his human body quickly adapted to. The palace corridor seemed endless, and every hallway, balcony, and garden contained magical technology that defied gravity and logic. Yet through it all, Aiden noticed something remarkable. The human's ingenuity often surpassed even Virelian understanding. During one lesson, he was tasked with activating a complex energy grid to stabilize a palace section damaged in the quake. The Virelians approached it through precise mathematical sequences. Aiden, however, relied on instinct. He observed patterns, experimented carefully, and eventually activated the grid in a way that impressed the instructors. You solved it differently, one instructor said, astonished. Yet it works. Efficient. Unorthodox, human. Aiden shrugged. I just figured it out. Lyra watched from the sidelines, a smile on her face. Your mind. It is different. I think you see the world more simply than we do, yet it works. Aiden realized something important. Humans had flaws, yes, but their ability to improvise, to adapt in the moment was unparalleled. And it might be the very thing that would earn him respect in this alien world. As days passed, the Queen observed him closely. She tested his patience, intellect, and sense of morality. One morning, she summoned him to the Hall of Judgment, a grand chamber with walls that displayed the history of Virelia in glowing holographic panels. You must understand, she said, her eyes sharp, that saving my daughter was not a simple act of heroism. It is a bond. You are now part of our law, whether you like it or not. To serve the princess is to serve the crown. Aiden nodded. I understand. I'm ready to learn whatever you ask. The Queen's lips curved into a faint smile. Brave words. Let us see if your actions match them. She led him through a series of challenges. One required him to navigate a shifting maze that reacted to fear, testing courage and presence of mind. Another demanded diplomacy. He had to negotiate with a delegation of alien nobles, convincing them to allow repairs in a contested city zone. The final trial was physical. He had to defend Lyra against simulated attackers using advanced training drones. Aiden approached each task as he had faced danger on Earth, with focus, determination, and human ingenuity. Where the Virelians used logic, he used creativity. Where they expected calculation, he used intuition. And at every step, Lyra observed, her admiration growing. After weeks of testing, even the Queen could not deny his worth. "You are extraordinary," she said finally, her voice calm but authoritative. "Your mind, your body, your courage, they are human. Yet they rival even the best Virelians. You have passed my test. But know this, your true test is not here. It is the world outside where your choices will determine loyalty, honor, and survival." Aiden breathed a sigh of relief. For a moment he thought he had earned some freedom, but the Queen's next words froze him. "And yet, you remain bound. You cannot leave. You are part of this family now, whether you wish it or not." Days turned into weeks. Aiden grew accustomed to palace life, though he never lost his human perspective. He explored the gardens, marveled at the floating platforms, and learned to interact with creatures native to Virelia. They were strange, delicate, and sometimes dangerous, but his instincts kept him alive. Lyra became his companion in many of these explorations. She showed him hidden alcoves, secret water streams, and even a small chamber where the light of the suns refracted in ways that created illusions of floating stars. "You see things differently?" she said one evening as they watched the twin moons rise. "Most Virelians would never notice these small wonders." "You appreciate life," Aiden smiled. "Maybe that's what humans do. We notice the little things, because we know life can end fast." Her eyes reflected the light of the moon, soft and thoughtful. "You remind me of what it means to be brave, to act without fear of death. My people forget that sometimes." For the first time, Aiden realized that bravery was not only physical, it was emotional, moral, and sometimes even spiritual. And in this alien world, it was beginning to matter more than he had ever imagined. But not everyone in the palace approved. Some Virelians whispered, questioning why a human so small and fragile was entrusted with the princess's safety. They saw him as a foreign intruder, a potential threat. Aiden felt their eyes, their doubt, but he did not falter. Every time he reminded himself he had saved Lyra once. He could do it again if needed, and deep down he knew that humanity had given him more than courage. It had given him resilience, creativity, and a refusal to surrender, qualities the Virelians were only beginning to understand. One night, as he stood alone in the balcony overlooking the glowing city, he heard a soft voice behind him. "Aiden," Lyra said. She leaned against the railing beside him. "Do you regret saving me?" Aiden shook his head firmly. "Never, not for a second. I didn't save you to be bound. I saved you because it was right. And if being here, being bound, means I can keep helping, I'll do it." Her eyes shone with respect and something more. Trust, admiration, and perhaps a quiet affection. The Queen's words echoed in his mind. Bound forever. Yet for the first time, Aiden did not feel fear. He felt purpose. Humanity had given him a gift even Virelia could not measure. The courage to act when others hesitated, and the heart to endure whatever came next. As the twin moons of Virelia rose higher in the sky, Aiden knew this was only the beginning. The palace held lessons, challenges, and dangers beyond his imagination. But he had survived death once, and he would survive this because that was what humans did. And somewhere deep inside, he understood. He had become more than a human here. He had become a legend in the making.